I love you, mom, but I don't want to be you. Ooh, does that sound a little bit too rough? Listen, beautiful angel, beautiful soul. My mom passed away when I was 27 years old, and I loved her very dearly. I discovered with the age of 23 how much pain and suffering that she was experiencing and was living in. Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Rebel podcast, where today I'm going to cover the topic of generational trauma and talk about three ways that you can start to heal and deal with it. I was brought up in a culture that's about respecting your elders. I've spoken about this in some past podcasts. It's so important that when we think about the people who came before us, yes, they had trials and tribulations and open doors so that we can be living in a certain way or experiencing certain things. And whereas I have a lot of gratitude for that, I also have a lot of awareness that there are places inside of how I was brought up that need to change. Systems of operating, ways of communicating, ways of dealing with each other. So as we move into the new era and the new millennium, right, it is important for us to be thinking about how is listening to our elders affecting our ability to grow to the next level of our evolution? Because there are things that are being handed down that need to not be handed down anymore. I'm sure that some of you have heard about the trials and tribulations of tribes that still believe in genital mutilation. This is, for me personally, a barbaric act that should be stopped in its track and not allowed to be done on any woman in a modern day society. That's just my opinion. And I'm going to continue to advocate for change on things that no longer serve us, that may have been happening for millenniums or centuries. I don't care how long it's been going on. There are some things that need to evolve. And with that evolution would be a letting go of certain practices. So in your cultures, no matter where you come from, whether you're from Europe or Africa, Asia, or Australia, there are things that are happening inside of your cultures, yes, that need to be confronted, that need to be acknowledged. Does this serve us? Yes, my great, great, great grandfather did this, or my great, 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 great grandmother did this. And then she told my great mother, great, 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 great grandmother, you see where I'm going with this? Okay. To do it, this stops here. This is no longer something that I want to be a part of, that I advocate as a person that wants to bring power and healing and transformation to the world. I know that what I'm asking for takes courage. It does take courage. It's easier to stay in the safety of your known habits, known rituals, known ways of operating within your family unit, within your societal unit, within your religious understandings, right? It's the familiar, it's known, everyone's comfortable with it. Shh, don't say anything. Yes, but it's time to say, it's time to speak up, it's time to disrupt. So I'm going to be teaching you three ways of working with your internal compass around the topic of generational trauma. Now, whether you feel like, well, I didn't really have anything traumatic happen to me in my childhood, trust me when I tell you that if your family lived here on planet Earth, there is much trauma to be dug into, investigated, and brought to the light. Yes. So, on first glance, it may appear that, oh no, we're okay. Yes, I didn't have any sexual abuse. I didn't have any verbal abuse. My father treated my mother respectfully. Everything in my family was fine, right? And maybe that's true. Maybe that's just the story that's been told to you because we know that there are secrets inside of families, right? That keep most people in are not even aware of what has happened. People will hold secrets inside of them for their whole life, telling not a single soul. So, having worked over 30 years with people on the topic of personal growth and development, I have seen the pattern over all types of society positions. Yes, not just because not just people with a lot of money or little money, or it doesn't matter where you come from in that regard when it comes to being influenced by what has happened in your cultures, in your societies, but also by having secrets that have not even been told to family members. I've had secrets in my family, and I know that my family still has secrets that there are things that nobody's talking about and may never be known until, forever. Those secrets will die with the people. So, generational trauma is about men, women from generations and generations treating each other like, for example, women not being able to get the education and do what they want. Okay. You might feel like that isn't your story, but if it's inside of your history, it is a part of your story because somewhere the woman's voice was silent. Somewhere the woman wasn't allowed to voice her opinions in politics, in medicine, in, matters that weren't womanly. She had to be taking care of the house or the kids or the home or whatever, right? So you might think you're not being affected, but trust me when I tell you, it is affecting you on a subconscious level. Yes. And so the first thing out of those three things I said is you need to become aware. Awareness of your trauma, awareness of the situation. Yes, that there are things that you're doing, ways of behaving, ways of showing up that don't belong to your framework of who you want to be, your identity, right? And so when you're like, I bring men into my life that don't really respect me, but my father and mother, they were so respectful and loving to each other. So I don't know where I'm getting this from, right? Some of these things are so deep that it might not be on a first glance an awareness that you even have any issues, right? Some people are like, oh, I don't have any sexual issues. I'm very liberated. I'm very liberated sexually, right? But then you start digging and you start asking, yeah, what's really going on sexually? And then you start to find out things. And then, you start asking questions. What about the family? What about this and that? And then you start to, hear things about, as I said, secrets, abuse, this, that, and other things that have gone on. So we're used of hiding, is what I'm saying. We're used of hiding things that we are ashamed of, things that we are not proud of. It's not spoken about. It's not openly discussed in families. It is not openly discussed in societies. So it's not like, oh, generational trauma, we're just going to find it and own it. So we need to first become aware that there may be a suppression of this information. So that first step to any type of healing is to become aware. You need to start asking questions. You need to start asking and understanding if there are cycles, if there are things that are repeating in your life, patterns that are repeating, get involved in relationships that don't serve you, finding yourself stuck in jobs that bring less joy and more frustration, but you're hooked on feeling secure, so you stay in. You just keep staying year after year, even though you're getting exhausted and not good things are happening, right? So I want you to just really work on understanding that the first step to any healing process is awareness of how deep does it go, and start to have conversations with your mother that you've never had before, asking questions that you've never asked before. Start having questions, ask with your grandmother, speak about the topics that people don't want to talk about money, about sex, about what really happened over there at that time, and so forth. And you'll find that as you start to probe into the questions, you will start to notice, oh, okay, there is really things that maybe I have not previously known. Okay. So this is a very important part. First step, awareness. Okay. Second step is to accept if there has been abuse, if there has been secrets, if there have been things that have happened to you, painful things that have happened to you. We need to work with acceptance and understanding the bigger picture of what's going on here, right? So the bigger picture of what's going on is that on planet Earth, there is good and bad, happy, sad, cold, hot, strong, weak. These opposites need to be there for planet Earth to have that fabric of the way things flow on this planet, right? There's a certain way things work on planet Earth. And part of the way things work here is through this opposite. So the opposite needs to be there. You cannot just have good things happening all the time. There's negative things, those not so good things. First of all, those are opportunities for us to understand what happiness means. Because if you don't know sadness, you won't know what happiness is. It's part of the fabric of planet Earth, and learning to accept it, embrace it, and live without pushing negativity away is really how you start to accept everything that's happened to you, happened to your family, happened to somebody that you know. So you're not asking, why is this happening? You're understanding that it will happen. It has happened. It will happen. And it's most likely going to happen. Yes, negative things, not nice things. And so as we start to accept that in this world, there will be things, painful things, things that you're told you should feel ashamed about. But it's important not to keep these secrets inside of you. It's important to find a way to heal the trauma, to release the secret, to let go of the shame, of the guilt, or of any story that might be circling around these traumas. And we can have, it can affect you financially. It can affect the relationships that you able to say yes to. It can affect your self-confidence or your, as I said, your sexuality or your ability to take risks and go forward in business. Healing through acceptance. I accept the pain of the beatings that I got as a child. Yes. So I'm not a victim. I understand that the people around me were doing the best with the information and the knowledge that they had. So even my stepfather, who touched me inappropriately, he has a story there. And that story is that somebody must have done something, must have happened to him as well. Yes. His relationship to sex was distorted, became distorted. There are many people that are going to have, even in the future, problems with their sexuality because as a society in general, we're not really dealing very effectively with these situations, right? We're not dealing very well with the sexual education. So until we start dealing with educating people really well about this most primal and beautiful force, we're going to continue to see fragmentation, violence, distortion, and all these type of things because people are not getting the education, information, and knowledge that they need to get about this very powerful, beautiful energy. And so it turns into distortion. So for me, I have healed my sexual trauma with my stepfather based on acceptance of understanding the bigger picture of what's going on here. So I don't feel like I'm a victim of what happened. I understand as a culture, as a society, we are breeding and giving birth to these distortions based on the fact that we still don't have proper education around these topics. The Mahima mindset, the Love University, and what I do is all about creating that awareness, not just about sexuality, but about all the topics that block humans from living their full potential, stopping wars, stopping poverty, stopping male misogynistic behavior, toxic male energy, and all of the things that are just like, oh, well, that's life, accept it, right? So acceptance doesn't mean that you don't have to, we move to the third one, acknowledge what you truly want and desire. Yes, it's very important to acknowledge the growth that you want to make. Yeah, to acknowledge the difference that you want to be. So I started this with saying, I love you, mom, but I don't want to be with you. Okay. Of course, we want to be with our moms, but maybe might not want to be our mothers, right? And it's okay to take the good parts of what it means to be your mom, but you need to fully acknowledge, right, where you want to grow, where you want to be different, where you want to take your journey into a different place and not just take on what has been handed down to you. This acknowledgement, this ability to say, yes, it's true. I have, had my mom did this or my mom did that and she did the best that she could. And as I take the torch and continue the path of liberation, of freedom, of respect, even, I fully acknowledge where I want to disrupt, transform, and change. So, for example, some of us were brought up in highly religious families. So I was forced to pray every meal, every night before I go to bed, when I wake up in the morning, and all of that stuff, right? And have that relationship with, in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and all of that. I was thinking the other day, why wasn't it in the name of the Mother, the Daughter, and the Holy Ghost, right? Like it could also be a way of saying, like, honoring the feminine, but it wasn't. And, for me personally, you guys know that I have spoken quite radically about the fact that I believe that humanity needs a new spirituality that unites us and brings us together. So in this third step, it's about acknowledging the difference that you want to make. And some of those differences will be defined by saying no to what your mother has been doing, saying, no, this is not how I want to live my life. This is not how I want to bring up my child. This is not how I want to work. Yes, because let's say you're brought up in work is hard, work is difficult, work, right? And you want to work with ease and work with fun and work with grace. That's something you have to acknowledge. I'm not going to take on this generational trauma that's, all about being burdened by work and feeling that work is not fun, not a place of growth, not a place of fulfillment, but it's a place of hard graft and misery, literally. Yes. So that's how I feel like if I would take on my mom's attitude. She loved working. Yes, of course, we all love to have something to do, right? But she came back from work every day very frustrated and unhappy about her work because it wasn't really aligned with anything to fire up her soul. So work became something you do to earn money, period. And there's, forget about pleasure, forget about fun, forget about, anything like that. It's just, you got to get that money and you got to be practical and you got to get on with it. And that's it. So that's not something I want to take on as a mind frame, as a way of thinking. So I want to acknowledge that. And I started acknowledging that from a young age. I want to live my life outside of that box. I want work to be fun. I want to do what I love. I want to spend my time with what I enjoy. So that is how you start to deal with the generational trauma. Those three pillars. Number one is acknowledge. Acknowledge that it exists. Even if you feel like you may not have any personal trauma, acknowledge that because you lived in a world where many people have trauma, that has subconsciously affected you. Yes. So if you're living in a world where, as I said, it's women are not being treated fairly compared to men, you say I have no trauma, but isn't that affecting you in some way, form, or shape, energetically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Of course it is, right? So the first thing is we need to become aware. The second thing is we need to work with acceptance of understanding the reason why these things are happening. Yes, how I pointed out that planet Earth is a place where this is going to happen. If you don't want opposites, then move to another planet, right? But on planet Earth, we have the nature of reality, which is good and bad, happy, sad. I actually have this is a module of teaching that I teach my students in my deep diving containers because we have a container where people come in, incubator of love, where people come in and work on themselves and in a safe space with incredible people. And they, we have just opened up the possibility to do that for half a year, or, some people will join us for the year program. This is where we start to understand that the deeper levels of why you think, act, and feel the way you do. A lot of us think we think, act, and feel this way because I'm just me. I have issues with men. No, there are millions of women all over the world that have the same issue. Yeah. I lack confidence. I'm not confident. That millions. You're not special. Like this is not a special thing towards you, right? So when we start to accept that some of what's going on inside of us is part of a bigger cultural problem, yes, a bigger issue that we are involved in this ecosystem where this is what is affecting the way we identify and the way we think about ourselves. This, you need to accept that and you need to understand that on a much broader scale. And then last one is acknowledge. Acknowledge where you want to shift, what you want to disrupt, where you'll say, I don't want to play this game anymore. In my culture, they used to have women, men had to pay for women. So they would give the family of the woman money, cows, houses, whatever, right? And then the woman would be then part of this new family. Now you can say, oh well, that's our culture. I say no, women should not be. There should not be an exchange of property, money, or anything for a woman's hand in marriage. Yes, for me, that sends a message that I wouldn't want. I don't have a child, but I wouldn't want my daughter to have the message in her system that she can be bought and sold for a certain amount of money and that, and that her family are really intentionally kind of waiting for her to come of age so that they can get this benefit, right? Like, oh, here's my daughter, now give me 10 million or whatever it is. So I think that's wrong. And that's my opinion. You don't need to agree with me. But for me, I will acknowledge that that is the shift that I would want to make that I want to disrupt, not just following the elders, following the generations that came before. I respect you, but I don't need to be you. And that's the message that I would like to leave you guys here with, right? As you continue your journey, it is okay to stand up and say what I just said. You can have a respect and a deep love for the people that have come before you, but we also need to acknowledge where some of what they were doing, saying, being isn't what we want to continue handing over to the next generation. Yes, we want to hand over new codes, new keys, new thoughts, new ideas. And maybe you are the first person in your family that's going to be that disruptive. And maybe it doesn't feel comfortable and you don't want that role. But here's the thing, you have that role, or else you wouldn't be listening to this video. And you certainly wouldn't be listening to this video up till the end, as we are right here and right now, right? This is a powerful message that the world needs. Please share this video with as many people as we can possibly ignite the fire that the Spiritual Rebel podcast is about. It's about questioning the very fundament of what you call culture. Yes, my culture. This is how we do things. This needs to be questioned because that is some of what is keeping us underwater, keeping us stuck, keeping us in the mud of very negative ways of thinking and operating, blocking us from being able to rise as a humanity and as a human race together. So please do go ahead and question yourself, question your society, and question what limiting beliefs are no longer appropriate. I love you. See you at the next podcast. And thanks for tuning in to this week's Spiritual Ripple podcast. Love, love, love. Love for yourself, love for the world, and love for others.